New episode, Speak Revenue. Remember, revenue is not a goal. Revenue is a result. But a result of what? In this show, we turn our eyes from the output towards the input. We speak with sales leaders and entrepreneurs about their journeys. Join us on our quest to uncover and learn the root causes of success. Let's unpack what works for them and what didn't. Today, my favorite guest, Stacie Sussman from New York. Thank you so much for joining us.
You're welcome. So excited to be there. It is so fun to be in such great company. So I'm excited for this and can't wait to hear what we all have to say.
Well, and I enjoy every conversation we ever had. I'm looking forward to this conversation. For the audience, give us a quick intro. Who are you? What do you do? For whom do you do this? And why are you so successful?
Sure. So my name is Stacie Sussman. I am the owner and founder of Rev Up Advisory. I work with scale-up companies that are looking to hit their next peak of their revenue growth. So these companies are doing anywhere from a couple million to about 50 million in ARR. They know they need to get to the next level of revenue growth. They typically have ideas of how to get there, or they don't have ideas of how to get there.
But they have you.
They bring, but they bring, yes, and they have Stacie Sussman, and they bring me in as a fractional CRO, chief revenue officer, to help them move between these peaks and revenue plateaus. And my background is in revenue operations, sales, and C-suite leadership, and I work hand in hand typically with the C-suite in order to get us to those next revenue growth goals.
So in one sentence, what's your secret sauce?
It's me. I'm the secret sauce, Steve.
That's a good sauce.
It's being able to work with the C-suite. I come in, I act as a member of the team, and I really listen to what the goals are of the company. What's the executive vision? What's the end game? That's my favorite question. Start with the end. Where are we looking to go? And then together we work to break that down into strategy framework and then some tactical execution too. But
start with the end is my keyword because I keep saying revenue is not a result. It's not a goal. It's the result. It's what we have on the end. Give us a big picture. Like what are looking at portfolio companies, if I may call them this. What are the big goals for this year, and what is the outlook for next year?
Sure. I mean, it's different depending on every client, I will say, but I have one client that has a big investor. They're deciding if they want to go into multiple markets or they want to just kind of like hone in on sort of like the TAM of their market and go really hard in just their market and grow their customer base specifically in that market. So we did an exercise to sort of understand the competition, understand what that looks like. And I think the idea for 2024 is we may not actually go into other markets. We realize that there's a surplus of clients that we don't get in this specific market. They're in the food industry. And so they're just going to go hard on the clients that fit their ICP. And the problem was that they couldn't take on more clients because they were at capacity. And so we did capacity planning and we worked with the systems to automate a lot of the processes that were causing friction and became really manual. And so now
you mentioned an experiment.
Yeah.
What experiment did you do?
Well, we went and did competitive analysis of the competitors, and we actually did demos of their competitors because they have a proprietary homegrown like ad tech platform. And so we made enhancements to their platform based on what we were seeing some of the competitors do. This company is doing, let's say, 10 million, and the companies we were looking at were doing $1 billion in ARR. So those are vastly different companies. But we got some really good product ideas of what enhancements we can make to their product, which gave them a better operating rhythm and reduced, friction with the employees. And so now they can take on more clients. And it was a really good success story.
That sounds like an exciting success story. Let's maybe stay there for a moment longer. Step me through their sales process, like from lead generation over closed one, hopefully, and everything after this, onboarding, value delivering, and probably expansion.
So that's where I saw a break and cracks in the organization, to be really honest. They didn't have a clear definition of who their ICP is. They actually didn't have a clear definition of the value that the company brought to the customer. They're really successful. It's like they just didn't actually, they had a brand identity crisis. So one was figuring out who their ICP is, getting really clear on sort of what that looks like in order to get that sort of MOPS, like marketing operations function going. So that was one piece of it. From a sales perspective, they did not have a clear sales process, and they did not have that systematized in a system like a Salesforce or a HubSpot. And so we went through the sales process, and sort of I walked them through, what does a qualified lead look like, and how does that lead become qualified, and then what are the steps in your sales process, who actually owns the pieces of that sales process, and how do you close these clients and bring them on board. And then of course what we all know is the handoff. Now you got these
Yeah.
clients, how are you going to actually service the clients? And so they were exceptionally good at, I'll say, customer success, but they weren't calling it customer success. They didn't even realize how much they were going above and beyond for the client. So I felt like if we're looking at the conveyor belt or the bow tie, they had a really good problem. They were getting the clients and they were keeping them for years, but they probably weren't flowing them through, let's say, the marketing and sales journey as seamlessly as they
Mm.
should.
Speaking of seamlessly, and I like the picture of the conveyor belt. Can you shine some light on the tools that you deploy to move the customer along all those touch points from lead generation? That's the kind of the promise we make, and then the promise we convince them we're going to deliver, and then the promise that we do deliver. It should be the same promise along the way. What tools do you stitch together to make that journey happen?
I mean, it depends on the company, and it depends on, I'll say, what kind of budget they have for a tech stack. I typically work with companies that are using HubSpot, Salesforce, and then sort of any integration within those two ecosystems. So for this example, the client had like a terrible website. So you can't embed forms into a terrible website. So we're talking basics here. So we did an RFP process. We went out and hired a brand marketing firm, and I found this to be a really interesting exercise because a brand marketing firm that also understood demand gen and marketing automations and ops
That's a nice
was
combo.
yeah, it was a really nice combo because I interviewed 12 firms across, I'll say, Canada and the US. And what I came to realize in this RFP process was some people are just brand experts. And I come from a magazine and digital advertising background. And some people are demand gen experts, but there's the few that kind of bridge the gap between the two. And I felt like
Yeah.
this client actually needed both. And so either we would have to hire one agency, then kind of pass the work over to another agency. And then I found an agency in Atlanta called Market Wake that ended up doing both. And that was the agency that we hired.
Nice. Returning to the tools. What does the website run on? Are you classical WordPress? Are you modern Webflow? Do you run it on HubSpot? How does?
Classic WordPress. They run it on classic WordPress. It gets a little complex because their back end is run on Magento because it's sort of like I'll say loosely an e-commerce platform.
Mhm.
And so the tech stack is really vital. And with that, we're able to partner with a web development shop to kind of put together sort of all
Mhm,
the
mhm.
pieces, but most of the tech was spent on the homegrown
Let's
platform.
let's stay here for a moment. We're talking website. A website is a one-to-many communication channel, right? And it only helps if you actually have visitors on the website.
Correct.
Maybe we go a step back and like in the early days, I must admit, in the early days of my company, we were tweaking the website and relaunched it like 6 times till we realized my LinkedIn profile has 10 times more visitors than our website. We should maybe tweak my LinkedIn profile and discuss the website less. So, but
I
getting back,
love that.
yeah,
I love that.
it's
I feel the
crazy.
same way,
Yeah, but then
Sussman.
we did the math. We started counting the how much traffic do our that whole team. That's just me, the whole team. And it turns out if we put the whole team together, it's really our LinkedIn. And the customer journey starts at LinkedIn these days, at least for us. They first check out my LinkedIn profile or one of my colleagues, and then from there, if there are no red flags, if this is interesting, then they go to the website, check out the website. But that's just making sure that this guy is legit and has a website. So, but returning to this, how do they get people to visit their website? Do they run paid ads? How does that work?
Yeah, I mean, I just want to add a really good point that you're saying, and I see this discussion happening on LinkedIn, and I think you'd be in agreement with me here, but it's as sellers and marketers, we need to meet the customer where they are in the journey
Yes.
before they talk to Stacie or they talk to Steven. They probably have all these preconceived notions about who we are and what we do. And so when you're getting on the phone with them for the first time or you're scheduling a demo with them, I think gone are the days where, okay, step 0, 1, 2, 3. If the customers are ready, like, I just want a demo. I read all your white papers. I checked out your LinkedIn. I went to your website. I have this specific problem, and I think your tool can solve this specific problem. Just start there. And I feel like we're so accustomed or nervous to say, oh, but you didn't talk to this person, or you got to qualify the lead, or something
Yeah.
like that. And I
Uh,
think it's so important to be flexible in the sales process because buyers can come in from wherever. So for that client specifically, it's a combination of that. It's they do a lot of trade shows, they do a lot of sponsorships with booths, they do webinars, they have leads come in inbound, people literally call their office. So I think it's meeting them where they are because people come from or referrals, people come from them in lots of different places.
yes, and thinking about it, we speak so much about brand and messaging and product message fit. I think the first step is making sure we don't raise red flags before they even contact us. Like
Oh,
have
110%.
your LinkedIn profile cleaned up, have your social media profiles cleaned up, make sure all the links work, make sure that, the testimonials that you include still exist. Just remove all the because we are overwhelmed with information, and we just try to disqualify all the time and as customers, I mean, and our customers try to find reasons not to contact us and disqualify us. And I think the first, before you even think brand and product message fit, just remove the red flags. That's step one, and then everything else is extra. Have a great brand, have a
Yeah.
great message is on top of this, but first just be legit and make sure that you don't raise red flags. But getting
Yeah,
back,
and make it easy for people to contact you. I feel like make it easy
yes,
for people to contact you. I have I don't know, you probably do too. I have my email like in my like LinkedIn bio. It's on my banner, but you'd be surprised how many people just don't ever use it.
yes, yes, absolutely, absolutely. It's just make it easy and remove all the red flags is the first thing, and then think about brand. Your customers probably care about brand a lot less than you do. Returning to that question, I recently somebody said, you know, the difference between cold and warm approach is cold always happens one on one and warm happens one to many.
Dive into that for me. I'm curious what you mean by that.
If you, it took me a moment to swallow this, but it's true. When you send out a cold email, that's one on one. Even if you send out a million emails, it's still the single email is a one on
Personalized.
one and it's cold. If you cold call somebody, that's a one-on-one. Even if you make 120 dial attempts before lunch, it's still, a one-on-one. Every time you contact somebody one-on-one for the first time, when the first contact is one-on-one, it's actually cold. There is
Right.
no warm, one-on-one unless you have, and then it becomes inbound, unless you have intros, unless they know you. I think this is an important distinction. We think of warm people that I know, but that's not necessarily what it means. It means people that know me. I have, I don't know, something around 10,000 followers on LinkedIn. They're all warm leads. They all know me. I don't know maybe all of them, but they know me. So whenever they contact me, if I can make them contact me through a LinkedIn post, through paid ad, whatever, then it becomes lukewarm, and
Right.
then it becomes inbound. Do you agree with these definitions?
Yeah, I do agree with that. I wanted to, what I always say as an operator is, what is your definition of that term? Because different definitions of the same terms for people. But yeah, I agree. I think I like that you added lukewarm, because when I would do scoring, I feel like there's cold, there's sort of lukewarm, and then there's warm, or what I would say like hot, really. And so I like that definition. I mean, cold, yeah, cold is hard. It's a hard game, the outbound game
Yeah.
of just getting people to talk to you that don't know about you. I would say, like, for me, the LinkedIn strategy has been a really great way to get lukewarm and warm people to
Mhm.
reach out to me or comment on my post, and then you can sort of slide into their DM and start having, back into that one-to-one conversation. But yeah, and I think it's important to differentiate what those look like and sort of what activities get people to cold, lukewarm, and hot in my example, because there's a different way of communicating with those people, and probably a different tone you're going to take depending on how they came in, or how you approach them.
I think we can even narrow this down to lukewarm means they know you, and
Hmm.
warm means they know you and they engage with you.
Yes.
And hot is they know you, they engage with you, and they have a pressing need.
Yes, I love that. Yes.
Yeah,
Hot is they're potentially ready to buy because there's some sort of pain
yeah.
there. But lukewarm, I think, yeah, lukewarm could go either way. They could become cold really quick, or they could
With
become hot
lukewarm,
really quick.
what I do is I sometimes just kind of ask for an intro. That's, lukewarm doesn't it doesn't mean that a lead is in itself the prospective buyer. Lukewarm is, Stacie, do you know anyone who needs XYZ because I'm selling this right now? That's not cold. And
Right.
if you send me someplace, that's not cold. So because people know me can be transitioned to people know you, and then they know
Right.
me. Like we can take a
And they
selfie
trust.
selfie
It's a
together
mutual
and said,
trust.
"Hey, look, this is Stacie and me." She said, "You should buy from me." Um,
Yeah.
no,
I do get those a lot, I will say, in my LinkedIn inbox now that we're thinking of the definitions. A woman had reached out to me and say, "Hey, I'm looking for this job. I saw this person. He's on their advisory board. I don't think they have a job opening, but I really like the company. Do you think I could connect you?" I typically like to do what I consider like a double tap, meaning I would reach out to that person separately and say, "Hey, this person would like to meet you. This is their LinkedIn profile. Are you open
yeah,
to it?" And
yeah,
then
yeah.
I sort of put everyone on the group,
Oh yes,
because I
absolutely,
think that's
absolutely.
important. Not everyone
Yes,
does that.
I think having contacts comes with the obligation to protect the contacts.
Correct.
And this is how I approach my network. If somebody asks me for an intro, I go like, "Let me ask," and then
Right.
I ask. It's not,
Right.
I'm not the Yellow Pages. You're probably old enough to
You
remember
made a reference. Yeah, I
what the
remember
Yellow
the
Pages
Yellow
are.
Pages.
Not everyone will get that. Okay, let's
That
let's
big stack.
yeah, let's get back to our tool stack. So staying with that one customer, how do they generate traffic on the website?
So they're not doing a very good job about that, but we're looking to create a cadence. They do a lot of newsletters, which obviously is not off, on the website, but I would said for them blog posting and social interactions. When we actually hired that brand agency, they did an analysis of keyword terms and what competitors were talking about. And it was interesting to see what that analysis looked like, along with, hey, you're probably talking about these things, but you're not actually calling out, let's say, these top 5 to 10 like SEO words or sort of buzzwords that you should be saying. So just getting more cognizant about that kind of SEO virality piece to it, and then making sure that they were actually had like a plan to push that out. They were doing a lot of newsletters, and the newsletters click through and open rates were like bonkers, like almost 70 to 80% of the people were opening the newsletters because they're technically an authority in the industry. So everything people had to say, they had to say, people really listen.
That's interesting. 70-80% opening rate on the newsletter is very high. How did they
Very
get
high.
how did they get to the audience? How did they start? Where did they people sign up on their website? How did they start?
They either sign up at, they do a lot of in person. So they do a lot of booths and they do sign up. We did QR
Mhm.
code sign up or sign up on an iPad.
Oh,
Obviously,
okay.
customers all get their newsletters. We segmented out the newsletters between customers and non customers, and then potentially geographic location, because what they do matters where the person's located. And also leads. They did get a ton of leads from sponsorships that they've done. And so segmenting out people that are, current customers, people that have churned, and
Mm.
people that are prospective customers that could work with them.
How do they keep up the high quality? I mean, this is signing up people is one thing, but keeping them entertained, it's easy maybe to get them to open the first newsletter, but it's damn hard to make them open the second newsletter, right? Everybody gets a first chance, but how do they keep up the quality? And what's their secret sauce to make people keep opening their newsletters?
The industry, and they work in a very niche industry, the industry really respects them as a thought leader within the industry, and they don't send out like, hey, just checking in today. It's a Tuesday or something. They send out only thoughtful industry news, not just what is about their services, things that are constantly changing in their industry. And so I think people have grown accustomed to, when they're speaking and they're speaking to them through newsletters, it's really important and it's something they should be, listening to. And so authority in this niche industry, and that's where people listen to them.
Who's writing the newsletter? Do they have an editor, or is this the CEO founder?
A combination of both. A combination of both.
Interesting. So the newsletter is one way of getting traffic onto the website, SEO and content marketing. That sounds like a very traditional setup. So you mentioned forms on the website. I'm asking,
Yep.
HubSpot forms?
Yeah, HubSpot forms, exactly.
What happens from there? What are the HubSpot forms? Is
So
this a lead magnet?
yeah, it's more like you want to know more information about them. They don't really have like, book a demo with us today and you can talk to us in 4 hours kind
Mhm.
of thing. Obviously, they'd like to get there, but more like, can you ask for more information, a potential drop down? Do you want to learn about the platform and do you want to schedule a demo? Or, would you like to have a founder with the sales team? It's kind of almost like two paths there, but it's not as sophisticated of some of my other SaaS clients where, we're using Chili Piper, we're
Mhm.
routing, and
Mhm.
we're kind of booking a demo on Stacie's calendar, and you
Mhm.
can talk to me, 4 hours or less, depending on where you're located in the world.
So the call to action is a book a demo, or is the call to action get a free consultation? Is there any other incentive than talk to sales?
Yeah, I think it's more like get more information by talking to sales or the CEO or book a demo of the platform. So I think it's kind of like two routes. I mean, you can also sign up for their newsletter also, but I think at that point when they're coming to their website, people want to actually talk to someone at that point.
I admire the content marketing and the lead magnets that Gong was creating and is still creating
Mm-hmm.
because, a lead magnet is a complete solution for a very narrow problem, if you think
Right.
about this. Yeah. And they had tons of this. Like, here are the 25 opening questions for a cold call. That's a
Yep.
very narrow problem. Like, what do I say when I call somebody? And the solution is, here is a PDF with 25, and now give me your name, and I'll give you this complete solution. And here is a solution on how to build your dashboard and so forth. Every question that a sales leader might have, and for every question is this narrow solution. And in the end, this builds trust. And
Correct.
now that you have all those appointment booked, and now that you have all those conversation, what you want to have is you want to monitor the quality, and that's what Gong does, right? So it's kind of those lateral solutions, left and right of your main solution, that just kind of prepares the audience. Now that you have solved this problem and this problem and this problem, you're qualified for my main product. And I think
Genius.
they did this. They did this in a wonderful way. And I just recently started to understand how this was built, and how I did it always wrong. So what is the approach on their website to get people to surrender their data other than just talk to sales?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's solving like real world problems that are outside of kind of what their services are, for example. Like they are a platform where they offer to people bulk food, I'll say, at like a discounted price. But in order to kind of make that food engine running, right, you have to have let's say, a functional kitchen, and the kitchen has
Mm,
to be up to
yeah,
code,
yeah,
and it has to like have a certain layout and a flow for the chef, and also it has to have a flow for compliance and sort of fire safety. And so they'll have consultative conversations about sort of what that looks
yeah,
like. It's
yeah.
not their main core service, and it's not really anything they offer, but that gets them to
That
automate
enables the
food
customer to
within
even
that
be
kitchen.
able. Yeah, this is customer enablement is very often misunderstood as seller enablement. It enables
Right.
me to sell easier, but what it really should do is it should bring the prospective customer on a level where they're even able to use our product.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Wonderful.
Exactly.
Time flies, Stacie, every time I talk to you. I would like to talk so much more about customer success and how they are actually closing. Real quick, any sales method that they're using? Gap, Challenger.
They're using kind of a combination of Medic and MedPick. So
Yeah,
I feel like, but yeah, they're looking for essentially, more the decision maker, and then they have sort of champions surrounding the decision maker. And so they need to figure out what that looks like.
very interesting. Time runs. We are at the end of the 30 minutes. All right, everyone. That brings me to the end of this episode. I want to thank Stacie. You are fantastic. I enjoyed this a lot. Thanks for joining us today and sharing all those insights and thoughts. Huge shout out to all our listeners. Your support means the world to us. Remember to check our website at speakrevenue.com for a full transcript and additional resources. And if you enjoyed the show, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, or wherever you go for your listening needs. It really helps us to get the word out. Please follow us on LinkedIn and Insta and YouTube, and be back soon. We're going to have great guests. And until then, stay curious, keep listening, and keep learning. See you soon. Thanks.